Om Sai Ram, Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namah. Let's just take this moment to enter into silence. And then I'm going to share some thoughts, not just shared. But let's go into that space of silence where there is no you or me. There is just that oneness. Thank you. What I wanted to share with, firstly, I was marveling at your memory of everything that was shared in, my previous sessions, because I have absolutely no recollection. And I can't take credit for any of it. The salt doll analogy is from Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, but something which stays in my heart very, very deeply, and therefore I often refer to it. But everything else that you mentioned, I don't even know where it's come from, because this is how it works. So I can say this to you. I mean, this is like a live demonstration that I know the state of my physicality and mind just some time ago. I've not had any time to prepare for anything. All I'm doing is sitting here, surrendering myself at the feet of the Lord, saying, empty me, empty me, empty me, so that you can play your music through me. This is the only path I know, which is a path of surrender. Because anything which has got a sense of doership and a sense of ownership, at least in my case, it doesn't work. And so, yes, that salt doll analogy is so important in my own life now on a daily basis, to remind myself that ultimately that's all we are. And it's a process of disillusion that we have to go through to become one with that. So the topic I had originally, discussed with Upasana, I know she's traveling, for 18th of November, was to do with women and Shakti and self-love. And so she sent me the voicemail I had sent her then, saying, this is what you had agreed to speak upon. So I will touch upon those things. When we look around at this world, very often what shouts at us, what screams at us is all the imbalance, all the unfairness, all the pain, struggle, and suffering. And when we look particularly at the state of women, and not just women, I feel anyone who's a sensitive soul, because Shakti or femininity is not really limited to gender. It's to do with the state of being. And that is probably why the wise beings of the past, our rishis, the embodiments, the gods, why Shiva brought in this concept of Shakti, why there is always a Prakriti with a Purusha, why there is an Ardhanarishwar. It's important to understand the interlinking of all of this. It's much, much later in the relatively young paradigm of the West. We see such clear delinking and delineation when it comes to gender. I watch, now this is funny, but I have to share because this is a candid session, and I there's nothing, I am who I am, good, bad, and ugly. So I'm a big fan of K-dramas. Okay. I watch a lot of Korean romance. There's a reason for that. When you watch Korean romance and you get it on Netflix, at least in India, it still presents a very old world model of emotional romantic love. Now, what that does for me is it reminds me of the importance of emotions, and that love is not a transaction, which is what I see around me most of the time in the modern world. Everything is so transactional. As a counselor, I work with a lot of people, youngsters, people in relationships, and just this entire transactional attitude towards themselves, towards relationships, it's leading to so much of misery, so much of dissatisfaction, so much of disharmony. And I go back to that old world understanding of what does it mean to love. And more, I'm getting convinced that if we don't reclaim the space of love within us, we cannot love another. And the concept of self love starts with the concept of nurturing, which is why if we go back to Swami and Ishwarama and the Women's Day, why is it the mother is worshipped so much? Because she who has the energy to create, to give birth, and then nurture, she is the highest embodiment in creation, in physical manifestation. Each of us as women, and it doesn't mean we have to be married or have to physically give birth, we hold that seed of creation within us. But the seed of creation may be stored in our womb, but it's actually held in our heart. And unfortunately, what happens is, having gone through thousands of years of systematic conditioning and vested politics and gender wars, many of us have, as women, have forgotten the source of our own power. Loving another does not, and I say this repeatedly, if this is one thing I've learned from Swami and from my gurus and teachers, loving another does not mean you stop loving yourself. This dichotomy between our internal reality and its external manifestation through action is what causes the schism, the schizophrenia. We were told, many of us, as an Indian woman growing up in this culture, but this is true, I know, of South Asia, Southeast Asia, many other cultures in the Mideast and so on. If you are to be an ideal woman, you have to be seen as constantly sacrificing yourself. That's the yardstick. And so, unless you are a Gandhari or a Kunti or Sita, even though I truly believe Sita was very different from the way she's been conventionally portrayed. And I don't know if any of you have heard or read the books by Dina Miriam. And if you haven't, I highly recommend Dina Miriam, Dena Miriam. You'll find her on Amazon. She is a direct disciple, even in this lifetime, of Paramahamsa Yogananda. She's a Kriya Yogi for more than 50 years. Yogananda continues to guide her. This is the third lifetime in which he is her personal guru. And as a part of her life's mission, she was, by the way, the person who set up the UN Peace Initiative for Women, along with Ted Turner in the United Nations in 2000, and does a lot of work bringing together spiritual groups, particularly women spiritual leaders, around oneness and healing this schism that I was referring to. But one of her missions, which her guru has given her, is to talk about her past lives. And she was given access to them. So the untold story of Sita is about her lifetime as Meenakshi, where she was Sita's maid during the time of Rama and Sita. I highly recommend you read that, because when you read it, it's not a book, it's an energetic transmission. For me, it brought back many of my own past life memories. And when you see and listen to the wisdom of Sita, you realize she's really not the watered down version that we have seen in the television serials or read in many books. Dina has also shared some of her other past lives in her two other books, My Journey Through Life and the Blue Moon Rising or the Black Moon Rising, something about the moon rising, which is about her lifetimes in China. And she's just completing a book on her lifetime with Krishna called Rukmani. Why am I bringing up all of this? We are at a point where a 26,000-year-old cycle of male energies is settling and giving way to the next cycle, the next yuga, where it will be the Shakti which will be reigning, which is why many of us feel drawn towards the mother principle, and many of us are working so hard to discover and reconnect with that Shakti within. We see women arising in so many spaces at this point. None of this is an accident. Going back to Swami's world, the first university he set up, my father used to work for University Grants Commission, and he was very fortunate to work with Swami personally in setting up the universities in Anantapur and Parthi and so on. So I know this story firsthand from my father also. Swami emphasized that the first university had to be for women, the first college had to be for women, and that women's education, their ability to understand the broader truths, their okayness to chant mantras like the Gayatri, things which were kept away, all of that was very, very important for these coming times. Why I'm sharing this broader perspective with you is it's very important for us to understand that we are standing at the crossroad of an entirely new cycle of time. And therefore, it's imperative for each of us to go back inside and do the inner work we need to do. Now, what is this inner work? For many of us, the inner work starts with looking at ourselves and our immediate life, the relationships we have in it, and wherever there is a structural imbalance, it's important that we reflect and see how we can correct that. Sometimes at a physical level, it may not be possible, it may not be easy, but you're all people who are very, very deeply entrenched in the spiritual journey. And there are many spiritual techniques, and I'll take you through a meditation at the end of today's session for us to experience one of the things we can do to correct this imbalance. The second you need to understand is the genetic imbalance that carries through generation after generation in our families. I truly believe each of us to whom this information is reaching is meant to rectify that. If we do the course correction at this point as the co-creators of our reality, we will actually clear the ancestral karmas for the generations to come, our children, their grandchildren, and so on. The third is the imbalance of the geography in which we live and where we are placed. There are energetic undercurrents which talk about a lot of horrors on so many levels, where women or gentle souls have been violated. There is a lot of pain and trauma stored in these spaces. And once again, I believe we are placed, it's not an accident that those of us who are a part of a greater mission have been placed where we are placed. So I want each of us to step out of our own I, me, myself, my world, and look at the world around and see, where is it I can open that heart of love? But how do I open that heart of love if I don't know how to touch it, how to be in it, and how to receive from it? So if we have to understand the essence of woman, we have to understand the essence of God, and the essence of God and women is the essence of love. I was in a session earlier today, which was an interfaith gathering, and every month, a handful of us, we meet, and there is a scriptural reading. So one month it would be from, say, the Gita or Quran, or from the Sai Sat Charitra, sometimes from the Bible. So whoever, every person will bring a different spiritual text and read. So today was the first verse of the Quran, which basically talks about Allah, the all-merciful God. And it goes on to then talk about, how each believer is the servant of God. So one of my friends who's he's doing, I admire him deeply because he does a lot of work. In fact, for the last 15 years, he has been single-handedly working on de-radicalizing young Muslims. He's an alumni of Jamia and a Fulbright scholar and so on. And I have a lot of respect for him. So he said something that when he was reflecting today, the question that came to his mind over and over again was this, that if I'm a servant of God, what is the quality I need to embody? That was the question he put to us. And I thought about it and I thought about it and I thought, actually, that's a brilliant question because the answer is only one. If God is the embodiment of love and I am a servant of God, I can't be anything but an embodiment of love. What did Swami call us? Prema Swarupulara, embodiment of love. Why would he call us that? He was trying to remind us of the essence of who we are and of the essence that we hold and of the only reality that is actually true and permanent. All other limited images, identities, roles we play, they're exactly that, limited. There is only one field which is unlimited, and that is the field of love. So as women, I've seen my own mother. She has been somebody who has always given of herself to the world. And yet, when it came to herself, she would struggle so much with receiving. A decade ago, when Swami left his body, and I fell into what I call the dark night of the soul, and I would say pretty much, I think, first 5 years, I was very much in that darkness till my living guru came and rescued me, Sri M. Those of you who know him will know my story with him. But in that dark night of the soul, what I realized is I had the same struggles with receiving. I was so much more comfortable giving. And it felt somehow that needing another, being open to receive love from another space or help from another space, in some way I was belittling my own greatness and goodness. Now you talked about subtle egos. Here is an example of the subtle ego for you. I'm good when I give. I become little when I receive. In a space, in a field of oneness, who is giving, who is receiving? The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad clearly states, I think it is the 19th verse of the 4th Adhyaya, he who sees separation shall die 1,000 deaths. And what it basically says is that those who see themselves as being separate from another will have to keep coming back 1,000 times in this cycle of life and death, till finally he or she gets it. There is no other. It is all I. It is all one. So what is my key message to you today? And when I'm saying this to you, I'm saying this to myself. Open yourself to love again. Open yourself to the emotion of love again. Do what you need to do to experience the fullness of who you are. That is the greatest essence of being a woman. It's the greatest essence of your own power. It is the greatest essence of being an embodiment of the divine. And then when you embody that, you go out into the world and become that instrument. What is going to change the world? Do you think it's more successful people, more rich people, more smart politicians, more AI technology, more all of this rubbish, whatever that we see around us, more vaccines? I mean, really, is this what is going to change the world? Or is it going to be those instruments who are so anchored in love within themselves, who are living, walking, talking gods, who go out and touch every life, every space with the energy of love? Tell me, what is more powerful than that? This is 2022, 222, start of the new cycle. We were in a 9-year window from 2012 till the end of 2021. Actually, till the end of this month. There is a calculation for that. And from 1st of February is actually the onset of the new cycle. I don't think it's an accident I'm speaking to you now and not in November. This is the invitation to each of you, to each of us. It's time to reclaim and embody that love and to step out into the world. This is the time for action. But every action has to come from the source of love. Otherwise, it will go back into that limited duality. I want today to be interactive, and so I'll just share another couple of thoughts and then stop, and maybe we can take questions and then go into, right at the end, maybe a 5-minute meditation. Because after the meditation, it's difficult to do a Q&A, I know that. So just another couple of thoughts. When we mirror self-love in our home and our environment, we also give permission to the people around us, including our children, what living in love looks like. When we hold ourselves back, when our hearts are dry, it's that dryness that we spread around us. One thing I know about the Sai family, they're great about discipline, time, all of these things. I mean, any member of the Sai family will see on the dot, all of those boxes are ticked. You'll see them ticking every box when it comes to the service front. But when you take it back to them and come to the self-love front, I want to know how many people can tick that box. The way you love and serve another, understand this, you too are an embodiment. Years ago, the Ramayana, the Ramanand Sagar Wala Ramayana, I think I was in maybe 8th or 9th standard when that came. I remember one conversation between Vasishta and Rama, where they were having this conversation on what is right, what is wrong. And at some point, Vasishta tells Rama's question was that, who is more at fault? Is it he who does wrong? Or is it he who accepts wrong? And Vasishta says something to the effect that he who does and he who allows are both karmically equally at fault. Which means if you hold back and you close your doors to receiving anything but the best, when you're willing to put yourself out there and give the best, then somewhere there is an imbalance. Swami always said love and compassion in one hand and discernment and balance in the other. That's the only way we will bring back balance on earth. And what happens when this yin and yang is shifting, this period of the yin and yang shifting, we are going from an age of extreme polarity towards the male energies now to come back and enter the field of feminine energies. So the pendulum has to swing into the side and then come into the center. You, I, each of us, we are holding that vibration within us. Go deeper. Today, tomorrow, when you sit down with the Lord in your heart, ask him, her, to fill and flood your hearts with that love. Break down if you must, but let that love overflow from your hearts into your eyes, into your hands, and into every life that you touch. Where I have landed with this, actually in my own journey, I'm going to keep going back to cinema, okay? Because I think, films, just like music, have a key role to play in some of our lives. So in 1987, the movie Dirty Dancing was released. Okay, I don't know how many of you have watched it, but I watched it then, and it's always stayed one of my favorite movies because it's got a simple theme, lots of good music and dance and so on. And every time I would watch it subsequently, I used to feel the sense of elation and this, this emotion of love and, just the whole possibilities that it opens up. Many years later, going through many experiences like what Archana talked about, I never realized when my heart had started to shut down. And one fine day, many years later, this movie was playing and I sat to watch it. And I watched the entire movie and I didn't feel a thing in my heart. That day, I went and I cried because I realized somewhere my capacity to feel had become numb. That was the starting point of me beginning to understand that love is who I am. It's what I choose to express. It has nothing to do with anybody else around me. I'm going to share a story of Guru Nanak. You know, when Guru Nanak was a young boy, he was sitting under a tree once, and he used to be in deep trance and meditation because he was again a great divine being who had chosen to take on a human form. And there was a scorpion which used to go every day when he would sit by this riverside and bite him, sting him. And he would still be lost. He would gently come, remove that scorpion, put it away. The scorpion would go back and bite him. And this kept going on. And some of the villagers noticed and thought, what a mad boy, what is wrong with him? So they went and they said, what is wrong with you, Nanak? How can you let this happen? This scorpion is going on, coming and stinging you, and you just let it happen. So Nanak said, very beautifully, he said, the scorpion is expressing its nature and I'm expressing mine. This has always stayed with me. You think everyone who used to come to Swami carried the same kind of love that Swami had for everybody? You think Swami wasn't judged or vilified or criticized? But the choice each of us has is, do I give up on love or do I continue to maintain that frequency of love? Because love is actually not an emotion. An emotion is only an expression of love. Love is a state of being. When I choose to be love, which is why Swami said, Prema Swarupulara, embodiment of love. When I embody love, that is my state of being, irrespective of any circumstance around me. Why is it Nelson Mandela could come back after 23 or 27 years in the prison, saying that I knew if I felt hatred for that jailer who had tortured me, I would have lost myself? Because he was an embodiment of love. That is the choice we have, Archana. While I say that, while we operate in this physical world, please use your intelligence, your discernment, be loving to everybody, but please have a clear sense of boundaries. When you feel that somebody is misusing or abusing the gift that you have to share, that's when you say thank you, but no thank you, and move away. What you don't do, Archana, is what I did then, and I try so hard not to do now, is shut yourself down from loving another person. So if A and B have hurt you, when you meet C, you've numbed yourself from the capacity to love C or D or E. That's what you don't do. So don't carry that trauma into a new space and don't shut your heart down. I'm sure you all have your own dirty dancings that will let you know how open or closed your heart is. Go back to that time in your life when you felt most open, most free, most joyous, and see where you are and see what you need to undo or redo or unlearn or relearn to open yourself up. At this current stage in my life, it's the K-dramas that help me. They really do. And by the way, it's not just me. I have a whole network of friends, women all over the world who've now started watching these, and they're all coming back with saying it's had a huge impact on their own self-love, on the quality of relationships they have. Because I must share this with you. Why does this work? When we connect with something which is of a particular frequency or emotional quality, it awakens a feeling or a vibration inside us. So let me explain this a little further. When we fall in love, Who is the other person? The other person is somebody who awakens a certain feeling inside us. So, where is the feeling? The feeling is not in that person, the feeling is inside us. When we go into that space of bhakti for Swami or our Guru or for Devi Ma or anybody, where is that feeling? That feeling is not outside, it is inside. So, do your research and see what are those things that create or generate that feeling of love in your heart. It could be a pet, it could be something in Mother Nature, it could be a beautiful piece of music, it could be cinema, it could be the hug or touch of a loved one, whatever it is. Don't hold yourself back. We as souls have chosen this human experience to navigate the entire gamut of what it means to be fully human. Only then can we transcend it. So go back to that space. Don't numb yourself, Archana. Do the work you need to do to open yourself up again. And yet, please be discerning because, yes, not everyone is operating at this level of consciousness. But that is why Swami said love and compassion in one hand, discernment in the other. Both are needed. That's the fulcrum. That's what we need. Thank you. Thank you. So, can I put a very practical suggestion in front of this wonderful group? When we struggle to see ourselves, sometimes we need to be shown who we are from the others. So, can I suggest that if we can set up a support group? See, this is, we meet here and we talk, but can we set up a support group of people who want to feel that support to get back on their journey of love? And when we come together as a cooperation circle, if we call it that, then we are there for each other. And in that, at some fixed time, we can all come together. We can share our stories. We can learn to appreciate another. I will tell you what I love and admire in you. And many times, if I'm to share that with you, you may be surprised because you've never thought of yourself in that way. We do that for each other. We remind each other of what we see. And that way, we hold the energy, we hold the grid, we support each other through this journey. It's not easy sometimes doing this alone. But this is just a suggestion and recommendation. And even if there are 2-3 people who would like to do this, I'd be very, very happy to be a part of it and support this. And we can meet a couple of times a month or once a month, just like people have book clubs and this club and that club, nature club. Let's have a support each other club, a space where we can just come and share. Because the journey back to healing is not an easy one, but I think we learn a lot from each other and each other's stories. So that is one of the suggestions. That apart, there are enough of inspirational talks people can listen to. I love listening to some of the TED Talks on YouTube. You have people with so much of candor sharing their love, their experiences on anything and everything. And so listen to those talks. There are podcasts, there are books, there are Swami's talks, there are other wise beings who have shared so much. Deepak Chopra. There are so many, sources which are available. But sometimes we just need to feel connected to each other a little deeper. One of the Jesuit priests who has been a great inspiration in my life, it's somebody called Father Tom Kundal. For people who grew up in Delhi, he used to be the chairman of CBSE and the principal of St. Xavier's School for like decades. And he's now 95 years old. He, by the way, he's met Swami a few times and Swami always used to be very, very fond of him. So Father Tom always said, if you look at the entire essence of the Bible, what is the one word that describes it all? So people will say this, that, and the other. He said the word is connect. We get the essence of God and Bible when we connect with God, with ourselves, with each other, with nature. When the sense of connection becomes strong, then we become that. In the space of disconnection, separation, we often feel isolated, lonely, misunderstood. And the journey seems so much more difficult. So come together. Come together in the space of the heart. I think one of the Sufis, I don't know if it was Rumi or who said it, um, Omar Khayyam, maybe. This is a tavern of love. Those who enter will get drunk in the love of the beloved. So let's create a tavern of love and let's get drunk in that love of the beloved. Yeah. This is a process you can do every day for a few minutes, and you'll be amazed at what begins to open up and flow from within. Tried and tested. Just a few minutes of self-love every day. Let's go back and touch our heart today. All right? Let's become familiar once more with our own source of love. So put your mobiles on silent if they're not. Close your eyes. Relax your body and straighten your spine. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. Breathe in and out. With every breath, today we take on the quality of water and we allow anything which is hard, rigid, stiff in our own body, physical or astral, to dissolve into molten light and water and just flow out, leaving us soft, fluid, and open to receive. Take another deep breath in and bring your attention to the center of your heart. See a beautiful emerald green ball of light in this space. And as you tune in, it begins to unfurl like a beautiful emerald green lotus. And in the center of this lotus, we see our beloved, our God, our Guru, the light in any form or formless state. And we continue to breathe long and deep. In your mind's eye, bend down and touch the feet of your Guru. And let us give this collective intent today of seeking his or her blessings and grace, to be able to connect with that deep space of sacred love and enter the doorway into our sacred heart, that space of all power, all healing, all wisdom, all completion. As you continue to breathe into this green lotus, feel it now expand, and this green light fills your entire body and then expands into your aura, into your energy body, till you're cocooned in this field of higher healing. It's not an accident that the color we see the most in nature is green, or even in hospitals, green is the most used color. Green is the color of the Anahata, the seat of our heart. And today we access this energy to clean out any residue of having felt unloved, of being rejected, hurt, judged, criticized by ourselves or by another. Any energy of unforgiveness, of unresolved pain that we hold on to, we release into this light now. O divine child of God, enough of carrying this cross on your frail shoulders. Set it down. Leave all your stories behind. Come back into the magic of this moment now. And give yourself permission to be born again. To be the true essence of who you are. To remember that each of us is an embodiment of that divine love. Because that love, which is our God, which is Guru, which is the Self, lives within us palpably as our beating heart, as our breath, as the yearning and the longing. As the pulse inside of us. And any time we choose to, we wish to, we can connect with this sacred space and receive the flow of unlimited, undiluted, unconditional, whole and healing love anytime we wish. Take another deep breath in and seal in the energies that have flown from within you today. May we continue to receive this abundance from within and never hesitate to share this all around us. Not from a sense of depletion or incompleteness, but from a state of completion, purnata and wholeness. So it is, so it is, so it is. Om Shri Sai Ram. Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Take another deep breath in. We give thanks to the Divine for bringing us together today in this sacred space, for reigniting the energy of love in our hearts, and for this opportunity to be born again. Bring the palms of your hands together. Rub them gently but firmly. Place them on your eyes. And whenever you're ready, you may slowly open your eyes. Jai Guru, Jai Sai. Namo Narayana.